The following production is part of the Play Some Video Games podcast network.
Greetings, villagers, and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for games you play on your table and on your television. You can think of us as the Father Time and Baby New Year of gaming podcasts. We're a proud member of the PSVG Podcast Network. I am one of your hosts, Kyle, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the guy who provides the young optimism to my aged cynicism. Josh, how are you doing this evening?
I am overdressed for my part in this. I'm doing okay. I'm alive, so that means I should be happy, right?
Yes. Well, and you're supposed to be providing young optimism this evening.
Oh, yeah. What was I thinking?
No pressure.
Oh, boy. Oh, the world is beautiful, and I'm happy to be sitting here and chatting with the old fellow known as Kyle.
So we're in 2019 now.
Uh-huh.
What? How did your year end? How did your holidays finish up? Because I know when we talked before and we recorded a little weird that you were pretty stressed. But things finish okay for you?
So, I had an appointment. I had a consultation for my wisdom teeth removal on the Thursday after Christmas, so the 27th. They decided, why don't you come in tomorrow and we'll take your wisdom teeth out.
How does that happen? Like, I would love to know, where, clearly where you live that happens, because where I live, things do not go that quickly.
No, they don't. He had 2 cancellations, and I wasn't getting any anesthesia, so that was fun. I got just Novocaine and 4 wisdom teeth pulled out of my skull, quite literally. It was terrifying. On top of that, my wife couldn't take the day off because she had 2 people out at work, so she couldn't take the day off. So my folks were going to watch the kiddo because he was sick in the morning. At 6:30, we get up. He had a fever, which means he can't go to daycare. So then we need someone to watch the kid. So my folks say they'll watch him. I get a text at 8:30 from my mom saying, I have a stomach bug. I've been throwing up all morning. I can't watch the baby anymore. So my sister-in-law came over and watched him while I was getting my teeth pulled. And then I came back and was just full 100% dad mode for the rest of not just the day, but the whole entire weekend. In fact, I took yesterday off from work to sleep in and catch up on the sleep I wasn't able to get. And then I had to take him to the doctor, so I didn't get to sleep in either.
So how much hopped up on painkillers were you while you were playing dad?
Well, the first day I didn't take any. I was just on Tylenol and ibuprofen.
Oh, that's pretty impressive.
I thought I was, and then I went and played Gloomhaven at 9:00 that night. So I thought I was superhero, and then I paid for it Saturday, and then I have a Vicodin right here ready to go in 30 minutes before so I'm not drugged up while we record. But yeah, it's been a painful recovery, and we'll see how the stitches go coming out tomorrow.
Well, I hope they come out very swell for you. Awesome. Well, hey, I'm glad you are willing to troop through this podcast while your mouth is all stitched up and all of that wonderful stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's a blast.
So
I'll tell you what, if you ever want to live in a horror movie, get your wisdom teeth taken out and not be knocked out, because just the sounds of the cracking of your teeth as they literally use pliers to pull your teeth out. It's really something else.
I had when I was younger, in my early 20s, I had a large mole removed from the top of my head.
Oh boy.
And I mean, it was big. We're talking much larger than a quarter. Like, it was quite big. And they just numbed it up and started cutting, and then it was weird because I could hear them cutting like in my head. So yeah, I know obviously it's a little bit different than having your teeth pulled, but yeah, it was very much like, that is my skin that you're tearing through right there. That's interesting.
Oh boy.
So yeah. Anyway, hey, you know what? This is not a medical horror stories podcast.
No,
This is a gaming podcast. And everyone, if you could bear with us, we have kind of a lot of housekeeping to go through this week. So just kind of bear with me here as we get through the usual and then on to some new exciting things at the end. Thanks so much for joining us this week. As always, if you have any feedback, questions, suggested topics, hit us up at BoardWithVG on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BoardWithVG. And we also accept long form communication, boardwithvg@gmail.com. I will repeat that, boardwithvg@gmail.com, because that might be very important for you all later to enter a wonderful contest. We use that hashtag boardwithvg on all the social medias, so feel free to use it so we can check out all the things that you are doing, whether they be playing games or setting off fireworks, whatever it might be. We want to check it out. And whatever podcast service you are listening to us on, we encourage you to give us a stellar rating. That's whether you're downloading us from the PSVG feed or our standalone Board with Video Games feed. As recently you may know, PSVG has launched a Patreon, and we are thrilled with the level of support we have been given there thus far. So if you'd like to monetarily support what we do, you can find us there at patreon.com/PSVG. But the most important thing to do is just give us a listen, and maybe if you'd be willing to share us with someone who you think might enjoy our podcast as well. So with the holidays, there hasn't been a ton of gaming news. So this week, we're actually going to be talking about what we've been playing, and rather than doing the news, which would typically be this week's rotation. However, we're going to keep the rotation the same otherwise. So last week, you got games we were playing. This week, you're getting games you were playing. Next week, you will also get games that we're playing. So that way we stay basically on the same numbered, even odd rotation that we were on before. But because of the holiday, we've had an opportunity to play a few games. So hopefully we should be able to keep you enthralled throughout. Also next week, we are going to be doing the MetaSpring contest kickoff. Yes, you may remember the MetaFall contest we did, looking at 10 games releasing in the fall and trying to predict their Metacritic scores. We are doing the same thing this spring. So obviously the name had to change to MetaSpring. And Josh and I will be giving our picks next week as far as what we believe the scores of these games will be when they release. The games that we are going to be scoring are, and you might want to jot this down or just be aware, kind of bookmark this time, because these are the games that you are going to need to score if you want to enter the contest. So the games are Resident Evil 2, Kingdom Hearts 3, Crackdown 3, Metro Exodus, Far Cry New Dawn, Anthem, Devil May Cry 5, The Division 2, Mortal Kombat 11, and Days Gone. So those are the 10 games that we will be guessing their Metacritic score next week. All you need to do is also guess the Metacritic score of those 10 games, submit that to boardwithvg@gmail.com, and whoever is closest overall will win a free video game. So I think it's a pretty sweet contest. We had a lot of fun with it in the fall, and we're excited to do it again. Now, a couple things to note. There's one PS4 exclusive and one Xbox exclusive on the list, but there's no Switch exclusive. The reason for that being that New Super Mario Bros. U and Travis Strikes Again No More Heroes are just releasing too early. They're both super early in January, so they're too early to be released for the competition. And I'm not aware of any other Switch exclusives or big Switch exclusives that are coming out before the end of April that have been dated at this point. So again, the 10 games are Resident Evil 2, Kingdom Hearts 3, Crackdown 3, Metro Exodus, Far Cry New Dawn, Anthem, Devil May Cry 5, The Division 2, Mortal Kombat 11, and Days Gone. Next week, we'll go through the full rules and guidelines, and we'll create a blog post, and we'll tag something on, or we'll pin something on our Twitter. But just note that those predictions need to be in by midnight Eastern time on January 18th. So yes, MetaSpring, it'll kick off next week, but you're free to submit your guesses whenever you want, dear listener. You do not have to wait for us. We'll accept them now up until midnight Eastern time on January 18th. Goodness, that was a lot of housekeeping. Josh, what have you been playing on your tabletop, sir?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we played Gloomhaven, which we just continued our campaign. Nothing too exciting to report back. We were successful, so that's good. It was funny. There was our friend does most of like the map keeping, so we're kind of looking at like he usually like makes a suggestion. We vote on if we want to do that quest or not, and he was showing us this quest and it had 5 treasure chests. So we were like, oh yeah, this is a good one. Let's do this. This is great. Because originally he wanted to do an escort mission. And we're like, the worst kind of mission in video games. I'm sure it's going to be great in this. So we're like, yeah, let's do it. So he starts reading the scenario. And he's like, after he reads the scenario, he goes, oh, by the way, these chests are just representations of loot that we're gathering. There's no treasure. Like, oh, awesome. Great. And the quest was to get all the treasure on the map. So that was a bummer of a surprise, but we succeeded and we're getting further along on the story of the game, which is good. Still enjoying it. Still loving the gameplay. I did order my Broken Token crazy expensive insert, which I should be getting tomorrow, I think. So that's exciting. I heard it takes a long time to build, so that should be fun.
Sorry to interrupt, but
yeah,
if given the choice, would you rather play Gloomhaven or build the insert?
I think with the amount of time it takes to set it up right now, I'd rather build the insert.
There you go. Okay. So it seems like maybe this will be actually super, super helpful.
Oh yeah, I've been telling them I'm just going to buy it forever, and luckily I got a nice Christmas gift from my mother-in-law that covers the cost of that insert.
Wonderful.
Which was fortunate. Yeah, and then I played KeyForge for the first time. I bought my buddy some KeyForge decks for Christmas. Then he kind of just went crazy and bought a bunch of decks and ordered the starter set. And I thought it was funny. Before I gave him his gift, I literally had to print the directions off the website because none of the game doesn't come with directions. 2, it doesn't come with the components you need unless you get the starter set. So today we had to use we had to use the gems from Ascension and pieces from Ashes for counters because it just doesn't come with any of that stuff. But we played 2 decks. I took pictures. It's on the Instagram. I don't remember all the houses. There's 6 or 7 total houses, I think, in the game. Each deck has 3 3 houses on it. I think I had Untamed, Dis, and I'm forgetting the name of the other one, but it was with like knights or paladins, essentially. Very like Warcraft-looking characters. And the way that KeyForge works is you have this deck. The deck you buy is a deck you play with. You cannot add cards to it. So it's just something that if you get a deck and you don't enjoy it or you're having a tough time with it, either it's not for you or you need to play with that deck more. So it was pretty close. So I think both of our decks were we played pretty adequately for what we had. Our scores were almost the same until he ultimately beat me at the end. But what you do is the first player draws 7 cards. Second player draws 6 cards. That just affects the first round because you're at a disadvantage on the first turn. And what you do is you can play as many cards as you want, but you have to declare a house first. So each deck will have 3 houses in it, but you don't know what you're going to get in your draw. So I think my first turn I had 2 cards from Dis, and I had 5 cards from the Paladin group. So the first player on their first turn can only play 1 card. So I decided I'll just play 1 from the lower group. But on your regular turn, you can play as many cards as you can play. When you put out a creature, if you're familiar with Magic, it's a little different. Well, when you put out a creature in this game, it comes out exhausted. So it has to wait. You have to wait a full turn to attack with creatures. You also have actions, artifacts. Actions you can play right away. Artifacts also come out exhausted. The trick is, if you put out a card from a such and such a faction on your first turn and it comes out exhausted, and you don't start with that faction on your next turn, you can't attack with those once they're ready. You can only attack with the house that you're currently using, unless you have cards that allow you to do that. Some cards will say like, you can attack with a friendly faction or friendly creature, and those would be anyone in your deck. The goal of the game is to forge keys, and how you do that is you gain Ember or Amber, depending on how you want to pronounce it, because they spelled it weird. I think it's AEMBER. And what you do is, once you collect 6 Ember, you can forge a key. You have to forge 3 keys to win. But you have cards in your deck that can either steal Ember from someone or hold Ember, and you put it on a creature. That creature captures the Ember and doesn't go back to the opponent until that creature is defeated. So you're not actually like taking it away from them, but you're essentially holding it hostage until you're defeated. It was pretty fun. We had a great time. It's very unique. It really is. He had some cards in his deck that were very strong, and they were common cards, but he only had one in his deck, which is, I think it's designed that way. But for $10 to get a deck, to get right into this game, I think it's a great value. The art is incredible in the cards. I love the art. The mechanisms are unique and interesting. It's not a boring game. I mean, some people who have played Magic a lot could say Magic can get a little boring because it's like programmed almost. Like, you know what you're doing. If you build your deck, you know what you're trying to do like every turn. And this, you don't necessarily have that going on for you. It can also frustrate people who are used to playing Magic as well. So I kind of get where the internet's a little divided on this game, where some people absolutely love it and some people just hate the idea of it. I don't even know if they've actually played the game and given it a chance, but a lot of people just don't like the idea of the game, which is fine. No one's forcing you to play it. But yeah, I mean, for $10, I'd say give it a shot. If you're into card games at all, remember, you're not collecting cards. Although I will say, if you do enjoy it, it's going to become addicting. Just buying packs just to see what you get. But it's very interesting, and yeah, check out the pictures, see if it looks interesting to you. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to playing more. And we'll see where it goes from there.
Do you think you'll buy more decks for it?
Yeah, I'll buy more decks for sure. I mean, I have 4 decks now. I only played with 1. But I think it's unique enough that, like, it's one of those things where if I have someone come over, I can just, hey, pick a deck and let's play. And more options, I think, is better. But yeah, I mean, it still scratches the itch of collectible card games for me because you're collecting decks instead of cards.
Right.
So it's not unique in that aspect. But yeah, I saw that if you get the KeyForge starter set, the 2-player starter set, that the broken token like generic card game insert fits perfectly into it. Oh. So I was like, that's perfect.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So that is Gloomhaven and KeyForge.
Yes.
So Josh, I had the great, I don't know what the best word to use, honor, privilege, responsibility maybe, of getting to play Millborn again. I think I've talked about Millborn on the podcast before.
I don't know that you have.
Oh, really? Okay. So this is a very common game that I play when my in-laws are about. We hosted for the holidays this year. So my mother-in-law and father-in-law, sister-in-law and brother-in-law were all at my home. And you can play Millborn up to 6 people. Then you play it in teams of 3. So of course we played as couples. And yeah, so basically, Millborn is a really old game. I think it actually re-implements a game that's from like the early 1900s in some interesting way. But the Millborn, I think, initially is like from the 50s, I think, maybe 70s.
Maybe you did tell me about this. It's
okay. It's a very, very old game. But basically what you're doing is you're trying to travel a certain distance. So you play cards that have distances on them. And then depending on how many players, depends on how far that distance is each game. Might be 700, might be 1,000 miles, meters, whatever. It doesn't really matter. They just literally are numbers. But the other people are on the table also have obstacles or accidents that they can throw your way to prevent you from being able to go. And literally, you start with a a hand of cards, and on your turn, you draw a card and play a card. And you can either play a card onto if you're playing in teams, your group's pile, which might be, adding mileage, or if we were given a flat tire by the other group, repairing that tire, I might have a card that repairs that. Maybe I give another team an accident to stop them from going, or just a red light to stop them. But the general gist of the game is you are playing out cards in order to try to get to this certain distance. Once you get to the distance, everyone adds up how many points they've earned that round. You move on to the next round. First team to X number of points. I think we played like 3,000 or 5,000 wins. Pretty straightforward game. It can be fun to a degree if you're playing with fun people. But here's the problem with games like this. My wife and I got very lucky at the very beginning of the game. So after the first 2 rounds, we had over 3,000 points.
Wow.
The other 2 teams had each less than 400.
That doesn't sound like fun at all.
No, right? Who is that fun for? That's fun for nobody. Because you feel really bad that you're you don't even want, because you're getting these cards that can stop the teams from going. But the thing that's frustrating is that you have to randomly draw a green light to start to go, right? So say you get your green light and then we throw an accident your way. Well, you have to find a repair card that you have to randomly draw to repair your car, and then you have to find another green light. Well, if I have 4 green lights in my hand, well, that's a third of them from the entire game. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to hold on to these. So that's the problem with Milborn. It's one of those games that if you're looking just to chat with people and maybe have a couple of drinks and you're really not super concerned with the outcome of the game, I think it could be a fine game to play. But it suffers from all those things that games that really rely on randomness suffer from, of that you can just get hosed sometimes. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And that just isn't fun. So like I said, I feel like I've talked about it before. I will likely mention it almost any time I visit my in-laws because we play it all the time. But yeah, Milborn, and it's Milleborne. If you are really interested, I think it's still available in Target and things like that. But like I said, if you're just not looking for something that's too brain busting, it can be okay. But it really, really suffers badly from the luck of the draw and the randomness factor of it, of that sometimes you just can't do anything. And then sometimes for some rounds, nobody can do anything. And that's super fun, where you're all just drawing cards and then discarding because you can't play anything you have and no one can do anything. It's super exciting.
Yeah, I bet.
But the other game then that I took one picture of and put it on the Board with Video Games Twitter account, and then took no other pictures of it because there's spoilers. So I can't do that.
That's why.
And that is the game Charterstone from Stonemaier Games. This is the legacy game that was designed by Jamie Stegmaier. And in Charterstone, very briefly, what you're doing is it plays 1 to 6 players, and you can have automated other players if you have one. If you have 1, they encourage you to have up to 2 automated players. But even if you're playing with 2 players or 3 players, any number getting the total up to 6, you can have automated players. So if you have 4, you could still have 2 automated players if you wanted to. But even if you don't, there are still things that those other charters do. But anyway, like I said, in this game, you are in control of a charter. And what your goal is to build up your charter to help build up this town. And that eventually you're trying to basically gain favor of the king so that you can be the person who's going to get to oversee this town when it's done. And each charter is basically 1/6 of this town. Okay. The actual mechanisms of the game overall, very, very simple. It is a worker placement game. You have 2 workers, and everything I'm talking about is going to very much be in the first game. I won't spoil really any of the later game stuff. But you have 2 workers. You put the worker out, collect resources if it's a thing that gives you resources, or pay the resources if it's a thing that you pay resources for, and take the action. That is what you do. Now, what all those actions are and what all those resources are, are pretty interesting, but obviously I don't want to spoil any of that stuff. The thing that this game does very awesome, though, is that when you open it up, it has this really cool tuck box that you open it and you open all the cards in it and you put it in. It's called the index. And it's a really nice box. It actually has a huge chart on the inside of it, and it's magnetic closure. Like, it's a really high quality component. And literally, you pull out card 1, but like you don't even have the board in front of you. It literally is like you get the rules, which are called the Chronicle. It says like, okay, here's what you need to do. Open this box. Make sure like the card, you put them back in the same order that you opened them in. Pull out card 1 and start reading. And like literally every card in the game is like, when you start, is just the rules. Like, put the board out in front of you. Select the different charter that you want to be, do this thing, put this thing here, do this next thing there. And they really incorporate the rules of the game into the actions of like the player setup and getting everything going and adding stickers. So if you're familiar with legacy games, obviously as you play them, how the game functions and operates changes, and you are destroying things and changing things and writing on the board and making marks and making permanent changes and getting rid of things forever. Like how you're playing the game and the interactions you're having are permanently changing the aspects of the game as you go. So how they get you to go through the setup is actually very, very cool. I really like the setup portion of it. I really enjoy the straightforwardness and the simplicity that the first game has. It is very simple conceptually to understand how to play the first game. At this point, I think there are 12 games that you play through. We have played through 7 of them. So we're a little over halfway done. It's very quick, 60 minutes per play at most. With 2 players, it's less than that because, like I said, you literally like so far. I guess it's kind of a spoiler, but I don't really think so. So far, for the most part, like the mechanics of like put a worker out, do the thing, put a worker out, do the thing, collect your workers, like that is what you're still pretty much doing.
Yeah.
Overall, really enjoy this game. Some of the drawbacks, though, that I'm seeing to it now that I've 7 games deep. Number 1. I have, or my wife has, or we collectively have messed up a rule in every single game. And not just like a small mess up, like game changing, oh shoot,
no.
I'm not supposed to be doing that way mess up. Because unlike a game like Pandemic Legacy, where I had played probably hundreds of games of Pandemic before I played Pandemic Legacy, and I knew the core rules of the game, I had not played hundreds of games of Charterstone with a core rule base that I knew prior to going into this game that is changing regularly and adding new rules every single game. So there were things that like had just never come up in 3 games. And then suddenly we do it and I realized that we're doing it wrong. Or I had read a rule, but then it was a thing that was introduced in game 1, but then we didn't really need to do till game 3. And we both kind of were like, well, this makes sense. But then we checked the rules later. We're like, oh, nope, that's not the way you're supposed to do that. So every single game, literally every single game, there has been a rules mess up that has been significant enough where either I or my wife feels like we did not do as well as we should have because we were doing something incorrectly, which is a bummer. That's a really bummer way to feel. And especially in a game that's a legacy game where maybe you've taken some actions that caused you to attach stickers to things or write on things or rip things apart. You can't really back up. You can't be like, okay, well, let's just figure it out. We'll take these few steps back and we'll fix it. You can't really do that without really changing drastically the way the game goes. Another thing that's really interesting about this game is that it is competitive, but it's friendly competitive of like, if you tie, you tie. That's it. You both win then. Congratulations for that round.
Yeah.
So there's some competition to it, but there's kind of like this friendly competition of like, oh, we're trying to build our charter, but I can play on other people's charters too. My workers can go to, my wife's charter and do things there and get resources there. So I don't want to totally hose her because she could do things that are going to be helpful to me later, but I still want to win. So it's that delicate balance between how much do I stick fully to this game plan that I have implemented,
right?
And how much is it trying to be like, oh, I see and everything is public information. So like all of your cards, all of the things you're trying to build, like all that stuff can be seen by the other players. So then it's like, well, I see that she's trying to build this thing. I know that would be really beneficial to me, but I could make this game end in like 2 turns and it's going to take her 4 turns to get that built. what do I do? Do I do it? Do I end the game or that round? That part of the campaign. Do I end game 5, or do I wait to kind of drag my feet? But what benefit is that to me other than maybe I get to use that thing later, and maybe something's going to change, so it's not going to work the way I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
So overall, I'm really, like I said, I'm enjoying the game. I'm enjoying the simplicity of the design. There is an excellent FAQ on the Stonemaier website of like all the things that people have questions about or things that people miss regularly or all of that. But even with having read through that multiple times, I still am messing up and missing things. And it would be easy to say, well, Kyle, you're an idiot. Be more careful, be more mindful, be more planful. But if you go on and read reviews for this game, that is very consistent throughout, that people are just missing things when they're playing the game. And I don't know what the fix for that is, because when you go read the rule books, it's clearly there. It is right there. It says it. It's not like the game was poorly designed or the rule book was poorly designed. I think it might just be that with a legacy game, when you don't have a base core game that is growing out of, you don't have the just natural knowledge of the way the game is supposed to play.
Right.
So I really like it. I'm looking forward to finishing it. I think it has done some things that I didn't expect it to do. Some of them for really good. Some of them for, honestly, I think not so good.
Yeah.
But even the things that were not so good have made you change, or made me change how I think about the game and how I approach the game and how I'm going to do my next. Because every game that you play, you kind of get to set up ahead of time and you kind of get to figure out what your strategy is going to be. All these things that have happened, I have been able to be like, oh, well, here's a new way that I could approach this that I hadn't considered before. Or here's a different thing that I might be able to do that I hadn't considered before, which I really enjoy the fact that exists in the game. So I'm sure this probably sounds like I'm super mixed on it. I am having a good time. I've also played the game 7 times in 2 days.
Right.
So, that probably is going to have the not so great parts are probably sticking a little more in my right now than like the great parts are. But I plan 100% to finish it. It's still set up on the table. Plan to, come home each night from work and maybe bust out another game. Because like I said, it is only 60 minutes per round. But if you're looking for a legacy game, and you have a core group of people that you think will play it, I would recommend Charterstone. I do think that it does do some cool things. I just would really, really encourage you to be very careful and don't be afraid to take your time when you're playing it, because since the general rule set is so simple and straightforward, it is very, very easy to make mistakes that make a huge deal. So that would be my only caveat about it. But I do think it is a cool game. I actually would like to. We've talked about buying the recharge pack, which is the cool thing that this game has, is that the board is double-sided. So you can buy just a recharge pack to play the game again without having to repurchase all the stuff. It just basically gives you the things that you got rid of. During the game, which is cool. So that's Charterstone from the folks over at Stonemaier. The art in it is great. The component quality is great. Everything about it, the game is really solidly produced. And like I said, so far, overall, having a good time. Most of the faults and mistakes have been my own, but it seems like many people are running into those same issues. But I will give a complete breakdown, not with spoilers, but just a complete overall impressions once I finish it, hopefully in the next week or two. So those are the board games I have been playing.
Nice.
Josh.
We were going to play that, but we watched the Watch It Played.
Yep.
We got totally overwhelmed.
Yeah. When I watched the Watch It Played with Rodney as well, I was like, oh my gosh, it's really not that bad.
Okay.
Like once you start actually like reading the cards and taking the time to like read through them and blah, 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 like it really isn't that bad. And now if you start, let me know. I can answer any questions that you have. Yeah. So it really wasn't that bad to get going though.
Okay, cool.
So what have you been playing on your television, sir?
Oh, well, it's been a heck of a week, so not too much. Honestly, I've just been playing more Smash Brothers in the free time that I've had. It's really been easier for me to kind of like lay down and watch TV than it has been to play anything really. So yeah, I've been playing Smash, been, moderately terrible at it. Still, I didn't jump back into World of Light just because I'm trying to unlock all these characters right now. So I'm doing arcade or campaign or whatever you want to call it.
How many characters do you have unlocked at this point?
I don't know the total count. I wish I told you the count. I'm not sure, but since we last talked, I think I had like 15 unlocked or something like that. I've probably unlocked another 8 to 10 characters. I'm trying to remember who I unlocked last night. I'm having a heck of a time with these like Fire Emblem characters that keep popping up. They're really tough. And then Luigi like kicked my butt up and down.
I lost to Luigi hardcore too. Like not even close.
So yeah. And I don't remember who I was fighting. Oh, maybe Bayonetta. I did 3% damage to them and they had done 161% damage to me within like, I don't know, 2 minutes of the match.
Nice.
I'm just like, what happened to them scaling down the difficulty? This is insane.
So humorously, the issues I have had when it comes to unlocking fighters is sometimes like Luigi kicked my butt. Like it wasn't even close. It was bad. I was like, what am I doing? But some of them, more often than not, I just do really dumb crap because it's on like a stage I'm not familiar with. And I remember one time, like I don't even remember who I was, but I was Jigglypuff and I was fighting whoever. And like the Jigglypuff has like their little, like you hold it and then they shoot out. It's just like shot like way off the end of this, like immediately. Like the whole match was like 6 seconds and it was over. And I was like, well, my bad. I guess I'm not winning that one. So
I do that a lot too. That's funny. All the characters have like the charge forward attacks.
Right. Yep.
If you miss, you're just done for.
Yeah.
Yep. No, usually I lose the first fight, like the challenger approaches fight, and then I have to like hope that door is there, and then I'll go back. I think I found that Meta Knight is pretty overpowered, so I just pick Meta Knight, and then I go through the door and just fight everyone that haven't been able to defeat in the past, and then I can usually pick up 3 to 5 characters that way.
Nice.
But the door's not always there, so that can be frustrating. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've been playing my Marvel game on my phone. Nothing else. Did I talk about, so I tried to play Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice.
I don't think you've talked about it.
So I was up really early one morning. I think it might have been before Christmas, like on Christmas Eve that morning, or Christmas. I don't know. It was a morning that I had. I was up at like 6 a.m. I couldn't sleep. And I was like, I'm going to play this game. I'm going to play Hellblade. So I popped my headphones on. It's a beautiful game. It really is. And I started playing, and there's like an opening scene where it kind of gives you like what the feel of, I'm guessing, the whole game is going to be like. And I'm sitting there in my living room at 6 a.m. It's still dark outside. And I'm like, okay, I'm playing the scene. All right, I hear all these voices talking to me. And it's like, she has 5 personalities or whatever is talking to her. And I get to like the opening of the game, and I'm like, yeah, I can't do this right now. It's too much for me. So I went back to bed. It was very like, I don't know if visceral is the right word. I had a very interesting reaction to it where I'm interested to play the whole game, but I had a similar reaction from what I had to Detroit when I was playing that. So I really need to be like alert and focused, and I need to be aware of myself before I start playing that game. I think it's genius the way they did that. I'm impressed that it even affected me that much in the very little time I spent with it. So I'm looking forward to playing more, but it's definitely a gorgeous game, and we'll see where it goes. But that's it. That's all I've been playing. How about you?
So as kind of promised, as I said I would, I have finished Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So I was able to finish that before 2018 clicked by.
Nice.
If there's anything I shouldn't say anything. If there's one thing I generally don't enjoy in games, it's swimming. Not a big fan of swimming in games in general. And then when you add piranhas and eels to the mix, I like swimming even less. So that I wasn't thrilled with that aspect of the game overall. That, that's cool. I understand that maybe you need to make some of the tombs and things like that kind of hard to get to, or you need to hide them away. So you need to make me swim through some stuff. That's fine. I totally get that. But I don't want to have to hide in seaweed and things like that to let piranhas go by. And then if I do get seen by the piranhas, I'm just dead. Just dead.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. At least the eels, you have a chance. Like you can stab them. But man, that was a bummer about the piranhas. But overall, it was more Tomb Raider. I'm not sure I necessarily enjoyed the town aspect of it with, kind of how you'd go into like a openish area that had like kind of these side quests you could go pick up and like all that. Like, I'm not certain that's exactly what I wanted in my Tomb Raider game.
Yeah.
But I did them and they were fine. They weren't a huge deal. Of this reboot trilogy is definitely my least favorite of the three, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game by any means.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather go play the first two over this one. Have you finished it? Did you finish the whole game?
No, I kind of gave up on it.
How far did you get? If you haven't played the game at all, you might get spoiled a little bit. So, but I don't think it's a huge deal.
I got to, well, without spoiling it, I got to the part after what people would consider the big surprise.
I guess I don't know what the big surprise is then, because nothing in the game was super surprising to me.
Nothing was the supernatural turn.
No, I don't know. I guess I don't know what is super surprising then. That's a Tomb Raider game. Like
the creatures, the things.
Oh, I didn't think they were super surprising.
I did not expect that at all in the game.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I didn't think that was a big deal at all. Okay. Well, anyway, did you get to, are you going to go back and play it?
You can spoil it. You can spoil things.
Okay. If you were listening and you don't want to know anything about Shadow of the Tomb Raider, skip ahead like 2 minutes, starting now. All right. Did you get to the point where you think Jonah is dead?
No.
Okay. So there's a part that happens where, Jonah, like, because you know how you're going like after the box.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going after the box. You get the box. Something happens, so you have to give it up. Jonah takes it and starts running away with it because he doesn't want them to get it. Yeah. Well, then they're like, "Oh, we killed him. You're never going to see him again." And then Lara Croft, like, she had like just fallen in water or whatever. And then at the very beginning of the game where Jonah yells at her, he's like, "What are you going to do?" Or like, "Why's it got to be you?" Or like he gets really mad at her.
Yeah.
Like it replays that VO and she like comes walking out of the water and just like murders all of these people. just murders them. Like no remorse, no like I'm going to, serve justice and retribution on all of you for what you did to Jonah. But of course Jonah's not actually dead, Right. And then she sees him a little bit later and it's like, all right, let's go on to the next thing. And I was like, he was like absolutely like cold-blooded, like murdered all those people. And now you're like, whatever, it's cool. So yeah, I don't know. That's it for spoilers if you're back. But yeah, it does some cool things. I've always enjoyed the combat in the game. I think the one thing that I was bummed about is like my favorite gun in the whole game, you get like right at the very end. So you barely ever get to use it. It was the best feeling one of all of them, I felt. I basically used the bow and arrow the entire time. The upgrade trees I thought were kind of cool. Kind of helped you a little bit get to the point where you could kind of like craft your play style, but you get enough if you're really searching for like all the ways and experience like all the little discoverable things along the way. You're gonna unlock most of the things on the path anyway. So by the end, you're pretty much have most of the ones you want unlocked. I think I had maybe a handful that weren't at that point. So yeah, overall, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I'm glad I played it. I don't know that I would go back to it or revisit it at any point, but it was a nice one to get checked off the list. Another game that I got checked off the list completely is I finished all the DLC for Spider-Man.
Nice.
So that game is 100% complete, wrapped up, tidy in a bow. The only thing I could possibly do, like my trophy percent is at 98 because I have the platinum and I 100%ed all the DLCs, other than they did an update for New Game Plus and beating the game on the hardest difficulty, which is each round's trophy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, but otherwise everything else is done. I actually deleted the game off my hard drive.
Wow.
I needed space for some other things. And I'm like, well, if I ever am going to go back to that, it's not going to be today or anytime soon, maybe next summer or something. If I'm feeling it, I might go back and do that. But overall, they did some daring, I will say, things with where that's going. I'm very interested to see where the things they did in the DLC go, because I think even though this was downloadable content and it was not quote unquote part of the main game, I feel pretty confident the things that happen in the DLC are definitely going to play a role in the next game. So I think it's something that if you have played Spider-Man and enjoyed it, I think the DLC is definitely worth a get. The story part of it is very short overall. Like each story for the 3 parts are probably 1.5 to 2 hours. So you're looking at maybe 6 hours total, but there's other side mission-y stuff to do. But the story part I thought was interesting. I think that it could have been a little more fleshed out at the end. It kind of ended a little abruptly. And there's one in the last chapter of the DLC, there's one really, really important side mission of things to do that gives you a really interesting story that I think is going to be, I want to see. I'm very curious as to how they're going to pay that off potentially in the next game. Nice. But yeah, overall, definitely worth the DLC there. Played some of the Overcooked 2 DLC as well. They did a free holiday update called Kevin's Christmas Cracker. So played some of that. Also got the Surf and Turf DLC as well. It's more Overcooked. I feel like it's harder than the main game was. There is one level specifically that, yeah, it's tough. It's real tough. Had gotten 3 stars and everything in the main game, and there's a couple of the levels in the DLC that are just very challenging. So that'll be something that I'm regularly playing with the wife moving forward. And finally, I just had a hankering and it was on sale. So I picked up the Spyro Reignited trilogy. So hey, guess what? You have the Spyro Reignited trilogy on PlayStation. So started with Spyro. You know, sometimes you just want a game that's not super challenging that you can just chill out and play, and that's very, very much what it is. I still don't like Spyro as a character. Like, I think he's pretty annoying. But they did a pretty nice job overall with remastering this game. It looks good, or remaking, I guess maybe is the more appropriate term. It looks really pretty overall. It feels good to play. It feels like Spyro. Like, it is how I imagined Spyro was when I was playing it originally. I know obviously it looks way better and probably controls probably a little better than it did then, but in my mind it's like what it was, and it's kind of that nice nostalgia trip. So overall, like I said, just something fun to sit back and play between things. I don't think it's one of those games that's going to set the world on fire.
Right.
Get it? Fire, dragon. Okay. But yeah, I think it's something that I will probably play from time to time when I'm looking just to kill like a half an hour ago, free a dragon or 2, and then, move on with my day. So if you're looking for something like that, I think Spyro Reignited Trilogy will probably fit the bill for you. The one thing I will say that I haven't noticed it, because I tend not to notice this as much in games as other people, but apparently the motion blur in this game is pretty intense.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just don't notice in games motion blur very much, and I think it's because I'm so focused like on my character and what my character is doing that I don't notice it in the background. But I have seen that complaint from a number of people that the motion blur is really bad. I hadn't, like I said, I haven't noticed it because just I don't when I'm playing games. But if you're someone who's sensitive to that, might be something to be aware of. And I didn't look for an option to change it, which I actually might do when I go back to it just out of curiosity. So
nice.
Awesome. Well, hey, time to move on to topic of the show. And as we roll into 2019, it's always fun to make some gaming resolutions. Now, these are things that we want to try to do in regards to gaming in 2019. Maybe we'll accomplish them all. Maybe we won't. But we're definitely wanting to try. I'm not even going to say we're going to try, but we want to try them. So after we've done some resolutions, we'll do just a couple of predictions for fun, because you know what? Why not? I think most shows do some prediction things, so we'll throw a couple in there just for funsies. But instead, we're going to focus mostly just on some gaming resolutions for 2019. Before we jump into it, really briefly, Josh, we did this last year, and I was going to go back and listen to the previous show, but I didn't have quite the chance to. Do you remember any of the resolutions you made for 2018?
No, I was just going to ask you if we had what we did last year. I think I might have said something crazy like, I'll only buy 1 game a month or something like that.
I had said I was only going to buy 2 a month, and that totally didn't happen.
Yeah, I know. I don't think, maybe for next week's episode, I'll listen to last year's and we can just revisit it then.
Yeah, that'd be good. Like I said, I was going to try to get it done before this episode. I just didn't have the opportunity to. So
yeah.
But hey, we'll revisit those later. What is your first 2019 gaming resolution, sir?
Well, I think we share this one. It's to revisit Breath of the Wild. We're doing this, I believe, as a group, led by Donnie's need for people to like Breath of the Wild. I'm just kidding, Donnie. Because Devin finally got his Switch, and I know that Donnie knows how he gives us some grief in a fun way about our distaste for Breath of the Wild. So he keeps like trying to get us to revisit it, and I think we're both on board for that. I mean, I would be interested to see what my opinion on the game is now. So
right,
that is one of my things, is to replay Breath of the Wild this year.
So I actually didn't write that on my list, but it's true. I did say I would do that. But here's my question for you. When you look at the games that are coming out in 2019,
yeah,
when do you think this is going to happen?
Well, it's tough, right? I did tell them I would do it, so I'll play it whenever they decide to play it.
Okay.
If I have to push some games aside, I will do that, because I want to give it a fair shot. I don't want to like play it while I'm playing something else,
right?
Necessarily, unless I play something in like small bits, but mostly Breath of the Wild.
Which is interesting because every Switch game I play while I'm playing something else.
Yeah,
like it's never my focus.
I do that too. But I won't play Zelda. I won't play Breath of the Wild in handheld mode because I did try that and I can't. I know like a lot of people mostly played it in handheld mode, but I will only play Breath of the Wild on the big screen.
Gotcha. I forgot to mention that, and I will just say this very briefly, and I'll talk about it more in 2 weeks or next week. I totally started playing Iconoclasts on my Vita.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because it was a PS Plus game not too long ago, maybe even just in December. But I totally dusted off the Vita and started playing Iconoclast, nice. And it's great. But I'll talk about it more next week. All right.
Okay. What's one of yours?
Okay, so my first one, and this is related a little bit to one that I did last year, but or at least I assume I did, but I'm changing it, and I think it's going to be more something I hopefully can accomplish more, even with games being the way they are, is I want to try to finish 2 video games a month.
Oh,
and
gosh,
I say that because there are so many games these days, right? That like, how do you ever beat them? Like, how do you ever finish Overwatch, or how do you ever finish Rainbow Six, or even like games like Destiny, or Anthem once it comes out? Like, how do you really ever finish those, right?
Right.
But I have literally hundreds of games that I haven't played yet.
Yeah.
Hundreds. I haven't played Hellblade yet. I could sit down over a weekend and play Hellblade. I haven't played Life is Strange Before the Storm yet. I could sit down and play that over a weekend. Like, I need to start getting some of these games done.
Yeah.
And I have so many games that I've started that I haven't finished, that I really finishing both Shadow of the Tomb Raider and then finishing Spider-Man very close in proximity to that. It gave me a sense of accomplishment to actually finish a game. Right. And I kind of like the way it made me feel. So my goal is to finish, and this is specific to video games because I have a very specific board game one after this, is to finish 2 video games per month in 2019.
Nice.
So hopefully
I should have one that's like that, but I finished more games in 2018 than I did, I think, in most years before that. So I did pretty good for myself. However, there's a lot more games I didn't finish.
Yeah, I think the number of games I finished actually probably was less in 2018 than in 2017.
Yeah. Most
of that could be because Telltale went out of business. Oh, but anyway, your next resolution, sir.
So it's something we previously talked about not too long ago. My resolution is to find and finish a traditional role-playing game this year. I don't know what game that's going to be. It doesn't have to be new. It could be Octopath Traveler. It could be Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It could be Final Fantasy 15. Is that the one on the consoles?
Yeah. Well, I mean...
the newest on the consoles?
Yes. Do you want to know something that's really interesting related to that?
Always.
Guess what else you also own now?
Octopath. I can't. No Switch games.
You now own Dragon Quest 11.
Oh, you bought it?
Yeah, it's on PS4. So there you go.
I'm going to play that game.
That's
my game.
That could be your game.
I got to log into the PS4. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, that and Spyro I bought on the holiday sale. So
awesome. Great. Thanks, Kyle.
Hey, no problem. Okay, so to finish, see, when you said you wanted to finish an RPG, I totally right away went to like paper pencil.
No,
So
sorry,
I was like,
not video game.
finish a whole RPG campaign this year. That's gonna be awesome. So, all right. So, finishing a traditional RPG. My next resolution is board game related, and I counted all of my board games and look at how many of them were in plastic and how many of them I hadn't played yet.
I can't believe you had games in plastic.
Oh, like I have a ton of games in plastic. I know. I never open them till I play them. So, my goal or my resolution is to try, and I could do this without buying any games, try 3 new board games each month.
Try 3 a month. That's feasible.
Yes. So sit down, play a game I've never played, and I have the games to do it. I could do it without buying any more, which obviously I'm still going to buy more.
Right.
But I could easily do that. So as long as about once a week I am playing a new game, I will be able to get through a pretty hefty backlog of board games that I have. So I resolved to try 3 new board games each month in 2019 and then talk about them here on this lovely podcast.
That's what we do.
That is what we do.
Yes. My next one is to go to more conventions, and I might have used that one last year.
You did use that one last year. That I remember.
And I didn't. I only went to one. So I'm already looking at one I talked to Kevin about today. There's one in Rhode Island in February. My wife actually wanted to go to it. And I found out Emerson Matsuji's going to be there.
Oh, very cool. Oh, excuse me. Very cool.
We're going to try to get some press passes, and maybe we can get an interview with the creator of the new Metal Gear game.
That would be very awesome.
Yes, go to more conventions and be more proactive at those conventions for Board with Video Games.
Very cool. So if you go to that one, then if you went to that and then you just went to PAX Unplugged again, you'd have gone to more conventions.
Yeah, but then I still have to go to PAX Unplugged. Who knows what can happen between now and December.
That's very true. That's very true. All right. I wanted to put the convention one on here, but I just don't know if it's like, I realistically feel like I'd be setting myself up for failure if I did that one.
Well, that's what predictions are all about.
I mean, my predictions are basically
resolutions
all. Yeah. My resolutions, though, I was trying to actually make them reasonable, but we'll see. Maybe it won't happen.
I'm going to fill the silence while Kyle yawns. There we go. I did it. Oh, you could have edited that out.
I could have edited that out, and now I'm going to have to go look for it.
Now you can't.
No, I can still, but we'll see if I remember to go look for it. So
if
maybe
I keep referencing it through the podcast, you can't do it because I'm going to be like,
it's very true.
You didn't edit that moment out.
So awesome. Well, my next resolution is again in reference to board games, is that I have a number of either legacy or campaign style games that I'm in the middle of. And I want to finish all of them that I'm in the middle of because I really just want to, in some ways, get them done. But also in some ways, I would like to pass them on to other people. So those that aren't legacy, obviously. So I would really like to go ahead and finish those in progress games. And some of them are even like the expansions for them. Like I have played the base game and done everything like in Mice and Mystics, but I haven't done everything in all the expansions, and I have them. So I would really like to go ahead. I still count that as being like in progress because it's same characters, same game world, all of that good stuff. So for the sake of this, I'm counting that as kind of being in progress. So I still have, I think, the last story still to do, like in Stuff Fables, like just those sort of things that I really just need to check off the list and get done. Want to finish all of the campaign games that I have in progress and all the legacy games, just get them done. And that's without starting any new ones. Just finish the ones I have going on now.
Cool. We're in the last one?
Well, I have 2 left. How many do you have left?
I can make 2 work. I can make 1 work. It's up to you. My resolution for our podcast is to get more guests on this year.
That sounds like a great resolution.
We already have 2 ones that are potentially already lined up, which are exciting. And yeah, I mean, we had some great guests on last year, but now we have a full year of knowing how to do this. And I feel a lot more confident in reaching out to people and talking to people that I want to get some more people on, and people that are, whether they're loosely connected to board games or not, like maybe someone you wouldn't expect as well, and maybe to reach out to more video game stuff, because we've been able to get board game people on pretty easily. Well, not easily. We've only had board game people on.
Right.
So I think reaching out to some video game people might be more challenging. I think it's easier to talk to a board game person about video games and include them in our conversations than it is to and get a video game person on and have them talk about board games. I don't think you see it that happen as much.
Correct. I would agree there. So
we'll see what happens, but that's my goal, is to get I almost said bigger and better guests, but that's an insult to everyone who's been on in the past.
Right. Because we have some really great guests in the past.
Right. So I don't mean that. I think that's just a turn of phrase that people use, but get more guests on. That's one of my resolutions.
Awesome. Okay. So my second to last resolution is I really, 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 really like, so I super want to do this. I want to make something awesome in dreams. I don't know what that is yet. I know one thing that I am going to do, as I've talked about it on this podcast before, is getting bumpers. I'm totally going to make the bumpers for our show in dreams.
Okay.
That is 100% happening. But in addition to that, so that doesn't even count for this. In addition to that, I want to make something really cool in dreams. I don't know if that is making a board game in dreams, which I think would be fun. But I want to make something cool, and by the end of the year, be able to say, look at this cool thing I made in dreams. Because I have been talking about how cool I think that game looks and how awesome the depth and the complexity of everything you can do in it is. And I want to actually take advantage of that package that they are delivering. So that is my resolution. I want to make something awesome in dreams before the end of the year.
Nice.
Do you have one more for me, sir?
I do. I didn't want to follow it up because you had mentioned something similar. I picked up Betrayal Legacy at PAX, and we also have a problem with like starting or finishing Legacy games. So, and it's going to be tough with like having the Gloomhaven group, but I want to try and do like we used to do with Risk Legacy, get a group of 4 people that can find time to get together to play this game. And I want to finish this game before the year's over.
Awesome. Is Betrayal 3 and up 3 to 6 or something?
Yeah, it's not 2-player. I think it's 3 to 6.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is always what makes it so hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's doable. I just have to get my friends, the 2 people we usually play games with, to come over at like 8 o'clock on a weekend night after the kid goes to bed, and hopefully we can play a game or 2.
Awesome.
While he's sleeping.
Very cool. So my final one is actually kind of built upon like the finish 2 video games per month, resolve, try 3 new board games each month. It's kind of connected to all of those, but it also involves my spending habits and my shopping habits for games. Is that at the end of the year, I just want my backlogs to be smaller than they are today. That doesn't mean they're completely eliminated, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I want to play more things than I get this year. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
So that is what my goal is, because my backlogs are ridiculous in both areas so significantly, but I don't want to arbitrarily be like, I can't buy new games, because I can. Like in a situation where I can buy games, but I want to ensure that I am buying the things that I truly, truly want to play, not buying the things that I'm just like, well, this seems cool, or this is like the hot thing everyone's talking about right now, so I'm just going to buy it, even though I'm not going to play it for 9 months.
You want a positive play to buy ratio.
Yes, I want a positive. Yes, I want a positive play to buy ratio. So that is my resolution. By the end of the year, my backlog will be smaller than it is today. Might only be by a couple, and I'm not going to not buy new things, but I want it to be less. So those are our gaming resolutions. Did you have any others, or was that your whole group?
That's all I need to talk about.
Okay, awesome. Well, then we're going to move on to the fun things. Also, the other fun things, not that our predictions aren't fun too, or that our resolutions aren't fun too, but we're going to move on to some predictions. So I've made 2 board game and 2 video game related predictions. They are not tied to specifically anything, and they're both, well, I shouldn't say that. My video game ones are pretty vague.
Yeah.
My board game, well, no, actually I have 1 vague one and 1 specific one for each. So
that's okay. You can have vague ones.
Yes. So do you want to start with board games or video games, or do you want to start?
Let's start with video games.
All right. What is your first video game prediction for 2019, sir?
Here it is. Sony will be at E3 in some aspect. Now, I think that they have a lot of time to think about the decision they made to not be there, and I bet we see a Sony like showcase, I'm going to call it. Not their full presence, but I predict we see Sony in a theater outside of E3 with a show that maybe just showcases one game, but I bet they're there.
I would 100% say that's not going to happen.
Well, that's what it's called, a prediction.
I know. I appreciate it. That's a bold prediction. I like it. I like that.
Walk back their statement a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay, man. Interesting, because I was going to make a prediction specifically about like what Sony was going to do instead of E3.
Yeah.
But then I didn't end up doing it. I wrote down like a whole bunch of different things and I was like, no, that's not right. No, that's not going to be it either. I brainstormed all these things that they could do. And then I just realized I had absolutely no idea. So I didn't make a prediction about it. So you really think they're going to be there in some way, hey?
I think so.
Okay, so here's my question then. If they release like a direct style video, but aren't there, like they just upload on the PlayStation blog and YouTube, like a direct style video for people to watch during E3, does that count?
I don't think so. I mean, that's also something they probably maybe will do, but I think that they'll be physically there.
Okay,
so they will get their hands on stuff.
They will have a physical presence at E3. Okay, we'll see if that happens.
We'll see.
All right, so here is my first prediction, and this is the more nebulous one, but this is very specifically in the case of games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say at the end of the year, at the end of 2019, people will say that the 2019 in video games was worse than both 2018 and 2017.
I turned my camera off on accident. You stunned me.
So you're thinking 2019 is going to be better than 2017 and 2018?
No, I think you're right. I think people will say it was worse. We just had this whole thing. We just had this whole thing in 2018 where everyone said it was like worse than 2017.
That's not true at all. A lot of people thought it was better than 20. We had a whole
conversation about it.
What's that?
We had a whole conversation on the podcast about it.
We did have a whole conversation on the podcast about it,
people
but I
were
think
saying that it was worse. It wasn't worse, I don't think.
I mean, I don't think it was either, but
I think it's funny that you said that because I feel like the giant spectrum of video game consumers is super negative about everything.
That's true. That is true. But what I'm thinking about is like, and who knows if all this is going to happen, right? But like, you know, the Nintendo fans are going to have a Pokemon game. They're going to have a Animal Crossing game. They're going to get, you know, Fire Emblem. You know, on Xbox, you're going to get Gears supposedly, and you're getting Crackdown finally. Like, PlayStation's not getting anything, but that's fine, which isn't true. But I just think that the games, and I think the reason it's going to be a disappointment is because this is the year before, realistically, and I don't want to give away my next prediction, but we're probably going to see some transitions start to happening soon. So this is the year that things should just be cracking, right? Like, they know the tech, they know the hardware. Like, this is the year that things should be coming out that are taking maximum advantage of the technology that's available to developers. But I think because 2017 had such, you know, a handful of landmark games, and 2018 had a handful of landmark games, that I just don't think 2019 is going to be able to stack up to it.
Okay.
So that's my prediction.
That's a good one.
All right. What is your next video game prediction, sir?
That you kind of alluded to it. I wonder if it's yours as well. I think that we see the new Xbox premiered like this year. They announce it. I think that Microsoft steps up and they have probably a good year ahead of Sony if they announce it this year, that they have a new Xbox coming. And I think Microsoft needs that. I think they need people to get excited about Microsoft, and a lot of people aren't right now. In fact, it's the talk of the town how Microsoft has had no games.
So you said they're going to announce the next Xbox. When's it coming out?
That's the thing. Okay, so it won't be this year. So I'm going to say Microsoft comes out. They'll probably talk about this cloud console thing that they've been talking about. Maybe release a $150 Xbox One that you can buy this year.
Mm-hmm.
but they'll say, this is just a temporary thing until 2020 when we put out Xbox Crimson, whatever the running tagline is for it right now.
Interesting.
And if they give people a year with cloud gaming, I think people get a little bit more used to it than that whole debacle with the Xbox One.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. My prediction is related to yours, but not quite the same. It's a little bolder, I would say, than yours is. Okay. So my prediction is that all 3 console manufacturers are going to announce new hardware this year.
Nintendo?
So Nintendo will announce a revised Switch.
Oh, yeah. The Slim or something stupid like
that. Something. Yeah.
Switch
so Nintendo will announce a revised Switch. Xbox will announce the next Xbox console. And I'm not saying I'm not even saying they're going to announce like Scarlet or like their streaming thing that's the same, like, oh, it just does what the Xbox does, like Xbox 2 or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
And PlayStation announced PlayStation 5 or whatever it's going to be. I don't think, other than maybe the revised Switch, I don't think Xbox's or PlayStation's releases this year, but I think they both announced them this year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I was contemplating, because I think they're both going to come out in 2020, and I was like, well, maybe they'll announce them in early 2020, but I feel like maybe that they might not release holiday 2020. That's kind of my thought. Maybe Xbox as well, but I think PlayStation might be shooting for earlier in 2020. Yeah. I just have that feeling. I don't know why, but I just feel like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, if they don't want to release in November like usual, that's when all the big games drop. So,
well, and I think if they, because it seems like everyone now, who knows what Nintendo will do moving forward, but especially Sony and Microsoft, like quote unquote forward compatibility. Like it seems like whatever is released for current systems is going to play on next systems anyway. So I think that it isn't as critical to release in holiday, because you can, whether it's the newest thing or the old thing, like you're still going to have games available for it. So it's not really going to matter necessarily as much. So, all right. So those are our video game predictions. Yes. What is your first board game prediction, sir?
Okay. It's not technically, board game is how we associate this, but I'm going to predict that we see a huge drop in Kickstarter board games.
Really? Drop in total dollars, number of that are successfully funded, number of projects? Like, what do you mean by drop?
I think in the terms of funded Kickstarters, the reason I say that is because it depends on how much you look at it, but I've noticed a little trend of a lot of games coming out and not meeting goals. And they're up, or like a lot of Kickstarters, like this is their second attempt at a Kickstarter, like a relaunch, I think they call them, things like that. I think 2019 is going to be bad for Kickstarter because everyone's jumping to Kickstarter.
Right.
And we talk about when's Kickstarter going to like plateau. I don't know that Kickstarter is going to plateau, but because you can put games on Kickstarter as much as you want.
That's true.
But people are going to stop spending money because they don't have the money to spend. Like if you watch like Tantrum House does videos on YouTube, and it's like Kickstarter's launching first half of January and second half, because they have to do it in halves.
Right.
Because there's so many and they still can't feature everything. I feel like, I don't know how Kickstarter manages how their pledges run, like monetarily. Like, are they charging these companies to put games up? But I see like there's probably going to be something that changes in the way Kickstarter runs, and we're going to see a lot more, I should say failures. We're going to see a lot more failures on Kickstarter in the way it's handled. I wanted to say like that we might see a bunch of like kind of with the Evil Dead 2 situation, like a bunch of like terribly managed Kickstarters, but I think we're just going to see a lot more failures because of the mass movement towards Kickstarter for games, especially when companies like Renegade are doing Kickstarters, and like companies you generally wouldn't think have to run Kickstarters are even jumping into that area. So now your Kyle's Games going up against Renegade Games on the same week in the same month.
Right.
So I think we're gonna see a lot more smaller companies fail on Kickstarter.
Though interestingly enough, Stonemaier Games has actually jumped out of Kickstarter.
Yeah.
They're
And
not.
he did a video
it.
talking about why. I didn't get to watch it yet.
So that is interesting, though, that they are going the other direction now. And I mean, Jamie Stegmaier is a smart dude. So
he probably knows something.
he probably does. My first prediction actually kind of goes along with that to a degree, maybe. I think Asmodee is going to have one like blockbuster acquisition this year.
Yeah.
I don't know who that's going to be. I have some ideas, but I don't want to like get my prediction totally wrong by putting it out there. But I think there's going to be one. Asmodee is going to make one acquisition this year that's going to be on the level of them like buying Fantasy Flight. That people are going to be like, what? Like, and I think that's going to be big, and I think that is going to happen this year. So I think Asmodee is not going to slow down. They're going to continue gobbling up all of the board game market, and they are going to have one major acquisition this year. And it might be something that we did not see coming. Oh, I think it'll be something we did not see coming, and something probably pretty unique, I would guess.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Cool. My last prediction is we're going to see more legacy games than we've ever seen. There's going to be so many legacy games that come out this year. Is this something I predicted last year too?
I think so, but this is actually like identical to this is my last prediction as well.
Because like it starts with Machikoro Legacy, which I think is coming out relatively soon.
Mm-hmm.
And we get Clank Legacy, and that's just the start. Announcements for this year before this year even began.
Right.
The problem that I see is that not every game should be a legacy game. So with all these legacy games that will probably come out, there's going to be some bad ones.
Yeah.
Like Seafall, bad from what I hear. However, it's all on who plays it, because I hear people say they love Seafall.
Yeah, you haven't played Seafall. You don't know.
No, exactly.
I have it. It's still in plastic because it's a 3-player game.
$24 on Amazon. I'm going to wait till it's 20 and then I'm pulling the trigger.
Yeah, it's 3 players. That's why I can't play it.
Yeah. Well, if I get it, we can Skype it.
That's true. We could Skype it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we're just going to see this huge boom in legacy games. We're going to have to endure the negative comments of people saying we don't need legacy games, but we're going to see them for a reason. Legacy games are popular. Legacy games are fun.
They are. They're real fun.
This is just something people want. People want a board game that they finish.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we're going to see a lot more legacy games.
Okay, so since that's my exact prediction too, because mine actually, I wrote it here. It says legacy becomes more prevalent. That is what my prediction was.
There you go.
What if you were to pick 2 or 3 games that you would want to see legacyified? That word, I'm copywriting, trademarking that word, legacyified.
Yeah.
What properties or what games would you pick that you'd love to see turned into a legacy version of them?
I would love to see the Century series get turned into a legacy game.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, you shouldn't be surprised by that one. And I'd like to see someone take a shot at a deck building legacy game, like a Marvel Legendary or Shards of Infinity or Ascension or something like that.
That, and we will get to that in a moment, basically, we have a question about this. But like Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle,
yeah.
So like oh man, by the end of that game, I was so frustrated that my starting deck was the same starting deck I started with in game 1.
Yeah.
How is that possible? Like, granted, like your player card and the ability there, and then you get proficiencies and other things, but like my starting 10 cards are the same.
Yeah.
Oh, that was frustrating. So that's a good couple things though. I like that a lot.
Thanks.
I think that it would be cool, and I know this is going to probably make some people groan, but I think it'd be exciting to have Ticket to Ride Legacy.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Because I think that is a game that could easily do it, because
you build the routes in between cities. That would be really cool.
And you could either do it where it stays in the United States, or you could take it where eventually you become like a global railway conglomerate, and you could add ships and you could add different things like maybe like rails and sails or something would be better, but I think it'd be cool to do something like that. Cool. I think Ticket to Ride Legacy needs to happen.
I'm with you on that.
So, all right. Well, hey, really quick before we get to our listener and reader questions, because we have a little bit of time here, not a ton, but we're running okay. Very, very briefly, when you think of and I'm doing this just for video games because board game release schedules are so hard to pin down.
Yeah.
When you think of the first 4 months of the year, so up through April, we'll even include May, so that way you can have like Rage 2 and Team Sonic Racing if you want to. What is the one single video game you are most excited about in the beginning of the year? Just one. If you had to pick, you could only buy one game. What is the one game you are buying?
I'll tell you what I want it to be, and I'll tell you what it is.
Okay.
I want it to be Anthem, but it is The Division 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think you're legitimately going to have time to play both of those games?
No, of course not.
Are you going to get both of them, though?
Yeah, of course I am. I mean, I how much of Red Dead did I play? I'm still happy that I have it and that I can play it if I want to. But yeah, I mean, Anthem is the game that I want the most, but I'm also the most scared about not being good. And The Division 2, I'm so excited to play that game. I had such a fun time with The Division, and I know I can play that solo. I know that if I have to, and I can't play with people, I know that I can play that solo, which makes me more excited for it.
Gotcha.
But the prospect of being able to play with friends now, when people are all on board with The Division, is super exciting. What about you? What are your pick? What's your pick?
So my pick, and people are totally going to call me a fanboy, and that's fine. I really, really want to play Days Gone. Not because I think Days Gone is necessarily going to be the best game ever, but I'm really just interested to see like how good, if at all good, this game is. Yeah. It is the game that, like, if you're not, I feel like I probably feel similar to Days Gone that like a big Xbox fan probably feels about Crackdown. Like, no,
I don't think that a big Xbox fan.
Well, like in the like, big. Oh, I'm sure it's gonna be good, right? Like, right? Like, it's it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Like, because that's kind of like I feel about Days Gone. Like, I really want it to be good. Like, real bad. Like, I really want it to be good. And when I see stuff about it, I'm like, well, that looks pretty interesting. Like, it looks like it could be good, but is it gonna be good? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the same feeling.
Yeah, so that's more of what I mean by it. Like, I think that like there's this strong desire, because if nothing else, I want Sony Bend to be successful. Like, I want this game to be awesome,
right?
But I'm kind of worried it maybe isn't going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another game that falls to the hype of like E3 and then the subsequent delays.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, so that is where I am. I hope that game's good. But I'm looking forward to playing it either way. But I'm also looking forward to Anthem and The Division 2. Those are going to be great too, I hope. So we do have some emails / questions, Josh, from our wonderful, wonderful listeners. So why don't you take it away, sir?
We do indeed. Okay, so psvg Kevin from Discord popped into the board game channel to ask, is a legacy game different than the Harry Potter Battle for Hogwarts? I see they are all like split into different games / scenarios. So I had listed a bunch of legacy games that are out. I think they are different than Harry Potter because they're all different from each other. Otherwise, the idea is similar. Harry Potter Battle for Hogwarts has legacy aspects to it. Yeah, elements, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's a legacy game at face value. Like, you don't buy Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle and say I bought a legacy game. I think it just has the elements of a legacy game. I think, in my opinion, like a true legacy game, you're physically marking it, you're tearing up cards, you're discovering new cards, which is the part that Harry Potter has to it. But the Harry Potter cards, you're always going to unlock those cards.
Yep.
A lot of legacy games, you can play through the whole game and not unlock cards.
Yep.
Like Risk Legacy, we played through it twice. There's still things we didn't unlock because we didn't do what the requirements were to get a new race. Like there's a whole new race in the Risk Legacy game. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be the difference. I don't know if there's a specific definition for a legacy game though. So I guess it could be open to interpretation.
Yeah, I think that Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle fits in the same vein as to, like, in a lot of ways, like Stuffed Fables or Mice and Mystics. It is a campaign. You are playing through a campaign, but you can always go back in Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle and play book 2.
Yes.
You can go back and play book 3. In Charterstone, I can never go back and play game 2 again. It is impossible. I have done things, parts of the game don't exist anymore. I've done things to the board. Rules have changed from what that was, and I literally have placed stickers in the rule book over the previous rules that I cannot change. Like, I can never, ever go back and play game 2 of Charterstone again, of this legacy set of games. I could buy the whole game and do it again, but I can never go back to game 2. I can never go back to game 3. And I think that's what it's the difference between a game like Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle or Stuffed Fables or Mice and Mystics compared to a legacy game, is that in any of those games, you can go play the second story again or the second campaign again, and you can just do it. There's nothing preventing you from doing that.
Yeah. And if people who are listening, if they're interested in legacy games, there's a bunch that are pretty affordable right now. You can actually get Risk Legacy for $40 now on Amazon. And that's a game that we got it not really loving Risk. And this game made us love Risk. It's so different while keeping the basic style of Risk. You can get, I think Werewolf Legacy is like $45 right now, which is a really good price. So if you've played Werewolf with people, I've never played it. But from everything I hear about it, if you do it like at family gatherings and things like that, the Legacy version is supposed to be really great too. So check those out if you get a chance. We have from Twitter, we have Splig at Dopalicious. He answered our resolution question, right?
He did.
And he says he wants to play what I got and what I get. No shame shelf, which we all aspire to not have one of those. Viticulture, Mystic Vale, Unlock, God of War, Untold, and Villainous, oldest to newest. I want to enjoy my games, not collect them. I think that's one and the same. You enjoy them and collect them. Otherwise, I would feel real bad about my shelf of shame.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah. That is a great resolution though, Splig, and good luck with it. I hope that you don't look at your shelf as shameful, but that you still are able to play through all of those games that you'd like to.
Yes, I hope so too. And then Paul Calico jumped in while we were recording it as a last minute question. And Paul says, that's at pcalico84 on Twitter. He says, so a friend of mine got Jumanji for Christmas. Well, the stickers are really bad. Do y'all have any recommendations for replacements or upgrade stickers? No. You can search online. I know there's Tabletop Supply companies out there. I don't know that they do stickers. I will say, usually, if you email the company who made the game, a lot of companies are good at sending you replacement pieces. And usually for free or shipping costs. So if it's stickers, you might not have to pay anything. But if you just, it's Jumanji, so I'm assuming it's Hasbro or Mattel. Find them on Twitter. You don't even have to Twitter, email. Let them know, and I bet they'll take care of you. I bet.
Yeah, and a lot of companies even have a replacement parts form on their website. That if you just go to their website, even just put in replacement parts, or even sometimes it'll be just in their menus as an option to go do stuff with. So
yeah,
absolutely. Hey, as always, listeners, we love when you communicate with us and talk to us about all those good things. I want to say, while I was doing some research for the answer to this question, and I couldn't find anything that was good, I was looking at stuff on Broken Token just because, why not? Broken Token. Because you had mentioned that you're getting your Gloomhaven insert from them, correct?
Yeah. Did you see the Fireball one?
I was just going to ask if you saw the Fireball Island insert. Yeah, that's do I want to spend another $80 on Fireball Island?
I mean, if you want to be able to have a sturdy box, you do.
Wow. Whew. I don't know. We'll see. I do think it's interesting, though, that it doesn't even use the game box.
Yeah, because, sorry. I shouldn't say anything bad about people who could eventually be on the podcast.
Yeah. I'm just very surprised that it completely is a separate standalone box.
I did notice a lot of Broken Token, not a lot, a few Broken Tokens do actually replace the whole game box.
Yeah, I think that's becoming more common for them now at this point, because I think it gives them a touch more flexibility in order to.
As a collector, though, I'm conflicted by that.
Understandable. I think that's understandable. So, all right. Well, hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to us this week. As always, we are a gaming podcast, but we love to leave you with a recommendation to live a well-rounded life. So, like I said, we're definitely that gaming podcast that talks about the things you play on your table and on your television, but we want to give you one recommendation, suggestion, or thing that we're up to currently that is helping us live a little more balanced life that isn't all about games. So, Josh, what is your recommendation to our fine listeners about living a well-rounded life?
I'm excited about yours because it's something that I've been wanting to watch since it was out in theaters, because that's one of my favorite series ever. But my recommendation is going to be something that everyone and their mom has been talking about for the past week, and that is Bandersnatch, which is the Black Mirror Choose Your Own Adventure movie on Netflix. Mm-hmm. It's not the best movie that you'll ever see. It's not necessarily even a great movie. It's a decent movie, but it uses that Netflix, their patented interactive mode, and it's in the Black Mirror universe, which is one of my favorite series. And what can I tell you? It's in the 80s. It's about a kid who's designing a game based off of a book that was a Choose Your Own Adventure book. And some crazy stuff happens, of course, because it's Black Mirror. The acting actually is pretty solid. I really like the acting. Typically you'll get a choice on the screen. You only get two choices. It's not crazy. Sometimes it's as simple as like yes or no, and then sometimes it's like kill this person or don't kill this person, and you're like, whoa, that's a crazy. Where did that come from? And it does just like a Choose Your Own Adventure book. If you choose the wrong path, it'll play out, and then it will bring you back to this like gateway where you choose where to go back to. Sometimes you only have one choice. Sometimes you have multiple choices. And I've got two endings so far. I haven't finished like my experience with the movie. But there's over 315 minutes filmed for the movie, which is supposed to be 90 minutes. Yeah, it's something you should experience. You should at least try it, even if it's not like up your alley. And you should just experience this because it's crazy.
How many endings are there?
I don't know. I didn't look it up yet.
Okay.
Because I figured if I Googled it, I would get something spoiled. So I just
Makes sense.
Looked. I'm not sure how many endings there are, but yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm like trying to not say anything that happens. But
right.
there's a very funny thing that happens like midway through the movie that is surreal and comical.
So can you answer a question for me? Because I had this in my queue to watch, and then I read someone's statement on Twitter about the movie, and then I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch this.
Yeah.
And it's not spoilery at all. They basically said, paraphrasing their words, that the problem with Bandersnatch is that it asks you to make decisions with absolutely no context for like what the potential, like what the better decision is, or what it's asking you to do two things that seem equal almost all the time.
No. There's definitely things. There's always context to the decision you're making, but you can't predict what's going to happen necessarily once you make the decision you're asked. But there are a couple things that like seemingly are like random, like you don't know if it matters which one you choose. But there's once the movie progresses, when you're not making trivial decisions, which they give you to kind of just explore the concept, you're asked to make a decision, and it's wholly based on context of the previous scene or the past scenes or what will be the future scenes.
Are you able to, when you're making these decisions, are you always making the decision? Oh, maybe this is spoilery. And if it is, just tell me, and then you don't have to answer it. Are you always making the decisions from the context of one character?
Yeah, you're always making the decisions for the main character.
So then are you given enough information and enough context, enough background of this character to know how this character would act? Or are they trying to make it that you are like imprinting yourself on this character and you're making the decisions for you? Or are you truly making the decisions this character would make? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and it's a little bit of all of that. So when you start, you're just making the decisions that person would make, or you would make for that person.
Okay.
Part of the plot changes that.
Okay.
So now this character is reacting to decisions he's making because he would never make those decisions.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. That is what I wanted to know. All right. Well,
that makes sense to everybody.
No, I think it made perfect sense to me, and all of our listeners are far smarter than I am, so I'm sure it made sense to them as well. So that is Bandersnatch on Netflix. Josh recommends it, if nothing else, because he thinks everyone should experience it.
You should at least experience it. You don't have to love it.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad I don't have to love it.
I'm not making you love it.
So my recommendation is actually a movie that I did see in the theaters, but then I just recently watched again on video. And this, similar to Josh, this is a series that I really enjoy, and I think is one of those rare series that as the series goes on, I don't want to say that every one is better than the previous one, but it definitely has improved from the beginning until now overall. Like, it definitely is a line going up as far as quality goes, other than a weird dip in the middle.
Right.
And that is Mission Impossible Fallout, the latest movie in the Mission Impossible series, which was in theaters this summer. Kind of, I think, early in December, came out on digital and Blu-ray and 4K and all that good fun stuff. Watched it again, and it is a really excellent, fun, awesome action movie. I think the thing that's very different about this one, if you're familiar with the Mission Impossible franchise, but maybe haven't watched them or kept close up to date with them, is that all of the movies have been directed by a different person up until now. Not Gareth Edwards. Gareth Edwards? No. Why am I blanking? Anyway, the person who directed Rogue Nation also directed Fallout. And why am I blanking on his name? So all of the movies up until now had been directed by different people. Like, this is actually where like J.J. Abrams got his directing start in movies, and Brad Bird directed one of them and all of that. So this is the first time that a director has come back. And this is also the first time that a story has in some ways continued from the previous movies. There have been loose affiliations and loose ties from movie to movie. Like, a couple of the actors would be the same, but overall the stories didn't necessarily really tie together in any way, shape, or form. And this is, from Rogue Nation to this one, the stories actually tie together. So they definitely did some different things with it, but it definitely, I think, was for the better. And I think it worked out really well. The action is amazing. Whatever you want to say about Tom Cruise in his personal life, the fact that he still does the vast majority of his own stunts, his own stunt driving, all of that stuff, I think is pretty impressive when it comes to the way these movies look and feel. The fact that he did an actual halo jump, the fact that he learned to fly a helicopter, the fact that he did all of these ridiculous things makes the movies feel different when you're watching them. If you watch, and I think the perfect example of this is if you watch the movie Skyscraper with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and see Dwayne Johnson doing his thing, climbing up a skyscraper, and then you watch Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, where Tom Cruise is running on the outside of the Burj in Dubai.
Yeah.
Like, it just feels different. Like, everything about the movies feel different when that is happening. So definitely recommend it. Mission Impossible Fallout. Even if you haven't seen the other movies, it's important to see Rogue Nation before seeing this one, because otherwise some things just will not make a ton of sense. But overall, definitely recommend Mission Impossible Fallout as a great action flick that also, has some touching stories to it in a way.
Nice.
So, yeah. All right, Josh, we've been going for, I think, our quota of time this evening. What do you say we wrap this show up?
Sounds like a great idea to me. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Remember to find us on social media at BoardWithVG and use that hashtag BoardWithVG. We had some great ones over the holiday, so keep it up. That's facebook.com/BoardWithVG, and of course, the empty box of boardwithvg@gmail.com. That's where you can send us emails. It won't be empty for long because we'll start getting our MetaSpring stuff. That's good. You can find me on Twitter at Josh Bones. Still, yep, I haven't changed that one. Xbox, PlayStation at Why So Serious. That's SIRRIUS. That Switch code's out there in the wilds. You'll never find it. And Baloney_Borboni on Instagram. But you see all my board game stuff on Board with VG. Kyle, where can they find you?
You can find me at all of the usual places: PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Board Game Geek, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff, all at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. Remember to submit your guesses for the MetaSpring contest to boardwithvg@gmail.com by midnight Eastern on Friday, January 18th. Like I said, if you want to remember the games, we'll pin a tweet and all that good stuff with them here soon. But remember, if you get it right, if you are closest and have your scores be the closest to what those games score on Metacritic, you can win a very own copy of a video game for yourself, which is pretty great. As always, if you have any suggestions for future topics, be sure to reach out to us on the social media, because we want to talk about what you want to hear about. And remember, everyone, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.